Hey folks, I'm Philip B, and welcome to my quick guide on trade and piracy. Yes, it is time to talk about where the money flows and how the people steal it. Most people don't really even look at this system when they're playing a game very much, and it's often misunderstood how things work, so my hope is to quickly explain how it does work in the current patch of the game, which is like 3.7, I believe now, and break down what trade is and what piracy is and how to deal with both of these things. So first off, what is trade? Well, trade value is the stat that you need to majorly concern yourself with, and it represents the civilian and private sector economy of an empire as well as the total value of all goods being traded. All pops on planets generate a small amount of trade based on their living standards, with higher standards generating more value than pop. If you want to see what your pop's living standards are, you just go to your species and you go to set rights, and it tells you here what the living standards are. These people are living in decent conditions, which is sort of like the mid-level of living standards. But if you went up the thing to like utopian abundance, they would produce more trade, among other things, as an individual pop. Trade is also produced from jobs, and primarily at clerks and merchants. So if we take a look at one of our worlds, let's take a look at Earth here. You can see if we go to population, you go down to workers, we have clerks here, and these clerks produce pop. You can see at the bottom of that list there where it says producers, there's a little like ring symbol with a plus next to it. That is this trade symbol, and next to it says 5.2. So this particular clerk is producing 5.2 trade at their job, as are all these other clerks here. These ones are only producing 4 because they are robots. Stability of a planet and planet designation and other factors also impact trade, and we'll talk about that more in detail in a second. And trade value can also be found in smaller amounts in space as a resource to be captured by starbases. So an example of what that looks like is here in the Zetar system. There's a little ring, again, symbol. That's the trade symbol, and there is 2 waiting trade here. This is uncaptured trade by this particular system. That if you had a starbase with the correct amount of trade range on it, it could collect that trade here. You can see planets here. Sometimes it's a little hard to see because of the pop-up. Stuff within my empire that's being collected is being collected. This one here is being collected and is giving 2, for instance. This one is giving 61 because it is a planet, and planets produce an awful lot of trade. So I have a starbase around it to collect that trade, right? And the starbase is also collecting this trade. So impacts on trade value. This is your important stats to know. Stability is 1. So if we look at this planet here, at Narnia, stability is 1. And every point of stability above 50% to a maximum of 30% total bonus, it gives you 0.6%. So 10 above 50 would give you a 6% bonus to your trade value. This system is 12 above 50%, so that's going to give you, what is that, 7.2% bonus to trade value, which I don't think it says if I hover over it, but it does for sure. Yes, there you go. Effects of high stability, trade value, 7%. There's a 0.2 in there as well, but you can see that it is affecting the trade value of this planet positively. Now, on the inverse side of this, if you have low stability on your planets, it gets negative 1% malice to trade value per level of stability below 50%, all the way down to negative 50%. So if you have 0 stability on your planet, you're getting negative 50% to your trade value, which is pretty awful. World designations also impact trade value. So having urban worlds, trade worlds, trade stations around worlds, commercial ring worlds, and econopolises all give plus 20%. And the one I can show you here is the urban world. Gives you a trade value of plus 20% right here. That's an easy designation to put on. Having the Galactic Stock Exchange built on a planet also gives you plus 20% to your trade value. And criminal jobs negatively impact trade value. I don't think I have any criminals on any of my planets. So here we go. Negatively impact your trade value. If there's a criminal job on your planet, I don't see one here. Yeah, I don't have a criminal on this planet, but there is crime. So what that crime gets up into a level, it'll start impacting trade quite negatively, and if there's negative modifiers that appear on the planet, they'll appear up here. Some of them can also impact trade, and those modifiers are usually from having high crime and low stability on the planet. That can affect the trade as well. So what do units of trade value actually do? Well, that's a good question. Each unit of trade value is converted to energy credits, and depending on your empire's trade policies, also to consumer goods or unity or both. So if I go up at the top here and I took a look at energy, you can see close to the top there I'm making 611.72 energy from trade alone. That is a huge contribution to my empire's trade, to energy production. In fact, it is the largest contributor to my empire's energy production. And if we take a look at consumer goods, we can see trade is producing 244.68 of my consumer goods. Now I don't need it because I'm way overproducing. And trade is producing 244.68 of my unity production as well. And you can adjust these around in your empire to move in one way or another. Note that not all empires are the same, however, so it will depend on your particular setup of your empire, but generally this is how it works in your thing. There's one specific exception to this, and that is the Gestalt consciousnesses. So any empire that has a Gestalt consciousness does not produce trade value at all. So you don't have to worry about this in any way, nor do you have to worry about piracy as well. Commercial pacts with other empires also impact trade value, because they provide you with 10% of the person's trade value that empire produces to you. So if you're trading with another empire and they have a trade value of whatever, 600, you're going to get 10% of that from the trade, from the commercial pact, and they will get 10% of your trade value to them. Now, that's not a removal of the trade value from that empire to you or from your empire to them, but it's like a bonus to the trade back and forth between the two of you. And so you want to trade with people with high trade values to get the best value out of that commercial pact, because it does cost you influence to have commercial pacts. For most empires. Some empires don't. And it all depends on your setup in particular, but generally they do. So how do you collect trade? This is a good question as well. It is automatically collected in your capital. That's good to know. So your capital can be a big trade hub and you don't have to worry about it. And then star bases collect trade from the system they are in. This can be increased with trade hubs and hyperlane registrars and in the mercantile collection tree or tradition. And trade is collected by a starbase must be sent. It must send that trade value to the capital through a trade route. So if we take a look here, so our capital is right here. If you click on this little nifty double arrow button here, it shows you the trade routes map. And you can see Alpha Centauri here through this dotted line is sending trade from its trade station, or its starbase I should say, which is acting as a trade station here. It's sending it all the way to Sol, which is only one jump, but it is sending it that way. So all the trade from here is moving to Sol. So if you look over here, that's 78 trade that's moving along. It's quite a bit. You can see here it has a collection range of 1, so this station is also collecting from Casmalion and Procyon, and if this system was in my system, it would as well. It's also end up here as well. It can. It only collects within your empire. This is my vassal. The colors are the same, but it is my vassal, so it's only really collecting from here. And it does have a trade protection of 44, so it'll help with that. We'll talk about what that means in a minute. And the protection rate is 2, so its protection rate actually goes out to here. Note that trade routes connected directly to your capital system via other star bases, so you get daisy chaining going on here. So if I wish that would stop popping up. There we go. If we go to this again, you can see the daisy chaining happening. So this trade system station is moving along here. In fact, this one's moving along here to this trade station, which is collecting the trade and moving it along here, to Alpha Centauri, which is collecting the trade and moving it along to Sol. So you get this daisy chain going on. The other way to do it is that it does move through wormholes, gateways, and L gates. You can see this long, crazy line through the middle of my empire. That's because these stations are not sending it northward through my empire. They are sending it southward to this wormhole, because the wormhole is closer to my capital over here, and then coming down this way to get to the trade station. So that's quite helpful as well. So what about pirates? Important thing to note. Every trade route that passes through a system without a full starbase attracts piracy. So every system will attract piracy unless they have a starbase. And not your capital system. Systems with mercenary conclaves also eliminate pirates. So if you have a mercenary enclave somewhere, it will also eliminate a pirate for you. And so how do you suppress piracy? So piracy negatively affects the trade in a system. So if you look over here, this system here is sending stuff down. If you hover over the pirate here, you can see it's sending 102.37 trade through the focal system, but 4.65 of that is being captured by piracy, and that number will only go up. In fact, it will go all the way up to 25.59, which is 25% of the value of your system, the trade value in your system. And piracy will continue to grow slowly over time. So if there is piracy available, it will grow slowly over time to 25%. And if left unchecked, when it hits the 25% and you get a high-risk piracy, which this system is definitely a risky system at the moment, it can spawn pirate fleets and a pirate base, which will stop trade and they'll blow up the stuff in the system, and it'll just be a pain in the butt. So stopping piracy, not too hard to do. Fleets have suppression power, naturally. So if we go down to my fleets here, you can see this fleet here has a suppression power of 144, which and the suppression power is derived by the ship's hull size, and smaller ships have a higher suppression power than larger ships, which makes sense because it's hard to hunt sneaky pirates with a battleship or a Titan. So if you look here, two battleships are providing 0.8, which means that one battleship is providing 4 suppression, whereas 2 corvettes are providing 20, which means one corvette is providing 10 suppression power at the smallest size. And if you consider the fact that a corvette takes 1 point of fleet value, like this value here, the naval capacity value, as well as how much you can have in a fleet, and a battleship takes 8, that's comparatively one battleship at a value of 8 fleet value gives you only 4 piracy suppression, whereas 8 corvettes would give you 80 piracy suppression for the same value of fleet value. So you can see smaller ships are much more effective. So when a fleet passes through a system, it automatically decreases the piracy if the suppression value is higher than the max piracy value that you're passing through. So passing through the system down here again, I would need a fleet value of more than 102 to be able to reduce the piracy in the system, and it will as it passes through. Fleets can patrol through a route to maintain a level of suppression across a route as it travels from system to system, and use the patrol function up here to do that. But note that once a fleet leaves the system, the piracy will slowly start to grow again. And note that it is slow, so if the fleet is moving around, it will probably keep these piracies down pretty low. Star bases also offer trade protection based on their level and equipped modules. The trade protection ensures the same amount of trade equal to its value cannot be lost due to piracy. This is different than how fleets do it. A starbase provides 2 trade protection, with each additional starbase level providing a 0.8, so the higher you go in the size of your starbase, the more it will provide. Gun and missile batteries, so those are the hostile batteries you can build on stations. Provide, if I go here, these things, they provide trade protection of 5 each. Whereas hangar bays provide, I don't think I have that. Oh, there they are. Hangar bays provide 10. So hangar bays are better at it in your star bases. Other things can add to trade protections, such as the galactic commerce resolutions, being in a trade league, and the mercantile tradition. Now I have the mercantile tradition unlocked here, and just getting the base one gives you a blanket 0.5 trade protection, as well as a +1 collection range for all your star bases, which is great. So what does it all mean in the end? Well, set up star bases in strategic locations around your empire, especially over planets that are going to produce a lot of trade value. It's very helpful in that way. Organize your trade routes to funnel trade effectively to your capital is important. It's that way you minimize the amount of piracy that builds up. Use starbase modules to apply trade protection, but remember that if overall trade exceeds the value, then piracy will still grow. And if needed, use patrol fleets of small ships along your main trunks routes to suppress excess piracy as needed. Again, this is only if needed. And generally, I find star bases with a few upgrades and that are strategically placed around your empire are all you need to manage trade and piracy in your empire. And the only really heavily trading focused empires who produce lots and lots of trade really need to worry about patrol fleets, and even then it's only on a situational basis, so you just keep an eye on it if you have a lot of trade going on, but for the most part some strategically placed star bases will really help. I also want to note that making sure all your star bases are actually sending trade is important. If you notice here, one of them is not. This one has less for some reason because there's piracy along the route, and this one is not sending anything at all for some reason. So where is this star base? This is Daphne or Delphne. You're having all of your trade, 100% of trade of the 3.3 is lost before it can reach its destination. So this route, these two stations here are the ones that are having trouble. So dealing with this piracy down here would help get me this trade better to my capital. That's all that's showing. And hooking stations up to your capital is not all that hard. So if we take this station here, and if I click on it and click it to, I don't know, here, for instance, you can really set the route up. And now I want it to go here, and now I want it to go here to the capital, and that's good, right? Now it's heading that way. You can sort of direct it along the route you want it to go. Did you also know you can build defense platforms on non-star bases? So this is a star base, and you can build defense platforms here. I think everybody knows this, but you can also go to systems that don't have defense platforms or star bases, and just go to the base station here and also build defense platforms all you want, all day long. And these things provide trade protection in that system. So that's my little guide on how to deal with trade and how to deal with piracy in Stellaris in the current patch. I hope you've enjoyed this information and it's helped you out in your game. Please like and subscribe to help me get encouraged to make more of these videos, and leave comment below with your comments on trade and piracy, what your experiences are, what you'd like to see if they want to make any changes to trade and piracy. It would be great to hear from you. Anyhow, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.